Pack rats. According to Meriam Webster, the phrase "pat rat" dates back to 1885 and references a wood rat known by hoarding food and random objects. Today, the phrase is loosely used to describe people who do the same. What is hoarding? Put simply, collecting, saving, or being a pack rat crosses the line into hoarding disorder when all those possessions cause distress to the individual or interfere with living a normal life. Hoarding often makes a home unable to be used as intended, which spirals into wrecking hoarders' lives in other ways. Hoarders fill up any space they're given, from a studio apartment to a mansion. Therefore, forced purges or storage units offer only a temporary reprieve and, worse, leave the hoarder feeling traumatized and violated. Speaking of storage, many hoarders rent multiple storage units, which in combination with buying stuff often drains their finances. Hoarding used to be considered a form of OCD, but recent research has exposed important differences. For instance, OCD primarily feels bad. Obsessions make one anxious, and compulsions that attempt to relieve that anxiety aren't necessarily pleasant. Hoarding, by contrast, involves quite a bit of joy. Many people who hoard love the thrill of discovering a treasure for free, the high of buying that perfect item, or the feeling of connection when finding an item to give to a friend. These good feelings are hard to give up and are part of what makes hoarding so hard to treat. Over one-third of hoarders also have ADHD. Hoarders often have a really hard time making decisions, planning activities, paying attention, and prioritizing. Everything is of equally vital importance, from their passport to that lone chopstick. Sound like ADHD? You're right. A 2010 study found that over one-third of hoarders also meet criteria for an ADHD diagnosis. Hoarding runs in families. Also, hoarders are often survivors of trauma or neglect. Hoarding is at least partially genetic, so it's not uncommon to see siblings or other relatives with the disorder. And many, but not all, hoarders have a trauma or childhood abuse or neglect lurking somewhere in their background. Hoarders don't all hoard for the same reason. Some hoard things they think of as extensions of themselves, personal memorabilia, or everyday items from their lives. Others hoard things that remind them of people they love. Those 40 jars of mustard turn out to be a sister's favorite brand. Some hoard things they think are useful or will come in handy one day. Even things like rusty nails or discarded wire has a potential use. Still others see themselves as stewards of a certain item, like every New York Times issue since 1968, even if the ones in the garage are moldy. Paper hoarding is often about the information. Folks who hoard newspapers, magazines, junk mail, or other papers aren't necessarily interested in the items themselves. They're interested in the information printed on that paper. Often they don't even read what is on the paper, just perceiving they have the information at their fingertips, which will surely come in handy someday, is the point. This may seem counterintuitive, but almost all hoarders are perfectionists. Hear me out on this one. Perfectionists see things as black or white, all or nothing. If they can't do something 100% right, they won't do it at all. So when they can't meet their own standards, they give up. Therefore, hoarders would rather live in squalor than risk a less than perfect hoard. Hoarders think they have lousy memories. On the contrary, their memory is often completely normal. What's happening is they don't trust their memory. They may think they need to keep all their possessions visible in order to remember they have them, or they may keep papers as a standby for remembering the information. It's as if their brain's memory is stored externally, inside their home rather than inside their skull. Hoarders are often quite thoughtful and considerate, picking up items or information they think someone else could use. They also often have tremendous empathy, thinking quite tenderly about the object's comfort. Hoarders often have an exquisite sense of color and shape. They perceive the world differently than the rest of us. They may find genuine joy with objects of their favorite color or find beauty and appreciation in something non-hoarders can't seem to muster enthusiasm for, like a bag full of colorful twist ties or that perfect orange milk crate. Hoarders develop clutter blindness. When shown photographs of their homes, many hoarders don't even recognize their rooms. Something about living in the midst of it causes a kind of clutter blindness, perhaps in the same way that people living in big cities eventually don't notice sirens or taxi horns. But it gets more extreme. When asked to draw a plan of their home, many hoarders don't remember to account for the space filled with clutter. Sometimes the existence of a room that's completely filled may be completely forgotten. Unfortunately, hoarding is notoriously hard to treat. This is one of those disorders where drugs don't really work. There are no successful studies on medication for hoarding. The only thing that has been found to work is cognitive behavioral therapy with a therapist experienced in treating hoarding. But, and this is a big one, the individual has to want to do something about the problem, which inevitably means getting rid of the items, which is often more distressing than just living with the mess. Compulsive hoarding affects approximately 700,000 to 1.4 million people in the United States. The compulsion to hoard often starts during childhood or the teen years, but doesn't usually become severe until adulthood.